Hey guys, I got a great question from Alec. How do you turn $10,000 into $1 million to save your life? All right, I'm going to read you the question, and here's the question. So from Alex, what would you do if you found yourself in a scenario where you were dropped into a country with a strong economy, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, etc., and you had to make $1 million to pay for a life-saving surgery for yourself? Here's the situation. You have $10,000 savings in the bank. Someone is letting you stay at their place for free and feeding you, so your basic necessities are taken care of. You have no social media following and don't know any wealthy people or anyone of influence. You have a laptop, a smartphone, and internet connection. I'm curious to know what path you think would be the best to take. If you feel like answering as a video, I'm sure people would be interested in and know the answer to. Very good question, Alex, and it's the ever persuasive question: how do you get rich quick? So, what you didn't mention there was the time period. What length of time do you have? So if I'm dying and I need to have the operation that's going to save my life is going to cost $1 million and I've got 1 month to do it, for example, then the only way to do it is to gamble, right? You're not going to build a business to $1 million in 30 days. You're not going to magically come up with some, in my opinion, you're not going to magically come up with some thing that is going to develop so quickly. Just the mechanics of how business work generally, you need a long runway. So if I had to get to $1 million quickly, I'd probably trade it. I'm a derivatives trader by trade, so I go and trade it and take ridiculously high risk, or I gamble it. I mean, because if you're going to die in 30 days and the only solution is to make $1 million, I can't think of another way to do it business-wise other than gambling or trading. You need something that can grow exponentially. It's kind of, if you had $10,000, and that doubled 10, 20 times, you'd be there. So, but I think the fundamental of the question really is, if you only had $10,000 and you wanted to build something that was a sustainable business, making $1 million plus per year or per month, depending on your appetite, then I would so now I've got $10,000 and I'd first decide what I wanted to do. Right? So, a lot of people say you should follow your passion, you should do this. It's not always the best advice, right? Because a lot of people are passionate about football or tennis or MMA. They're never going to be a football player or an MMA fighter, but they're passionate about it. Sometimes you just got to be realistic. And once you have money, you can be passionate. I have projects that don't make that much money, but I'm passionate about. So, but I have enough money not to worry about whether they make money. I have some partnerships with people that we have common interest in things and we have more fun. But being realistically, as an idea, fundamental, is it good? So you have to decide, and I'm doing this ad hoc, that I've put as much thought into this as reading this and now answering you off the cuff. I think you got to invest that 10,000 in yourself, or at least half of it. You got to, let's say, for example, that you decide that you're going to do online marketing, and that's probably going to be faster than a traditional business. Just signing leases, fitting out shops, tenant installations can take months, right? And I'm assuming, let's say hypothetically, we have a year, right? So we have a year to live and a year to get this $1 million. I would probably be an online business. So then the question is, what kind of online business? You need something that can grow really fast. So it could be something like fulfilled by Amazon. It could be, so if you divided the $10,000, $5,000 into your operation, that's how much money you have to spend, and $5,000 into learning the skills that you need. So in other words, if you have to learn, because you won't be able to afford to pay all the people that you need, but if they find out the key skills that you need, and if you can't, if you can't hustle your way to get that for free, buy it. right? Because the biggest investment you'll ever make for all businesses and for yourself and for life is to invest into yourself, right? What happens in business is a byproduct of the information that you have, because that's what builds businesses, is your information and beliefs, and you're a conglomeration of those things. So I would take half. So let's say that we do some research and we find a product that looks like it's selling. Now you need a little bit of money for, say a Shopify store. Then you need to find out something that has demonstrated that it sells well, so you're not inventing the wheel. You want to find something that has proven itself to sell well, and you believe that you can orchestrate it and organize it into this thing that you can sell. So, and the remaining 5,000 would basically be for paying for those things like a Shopify store or whatever the thing is, the structure that you need. And the majority of that would be in marketing. Right, so some things are, and it depends, some things cannot be advertised in Facebook and some things cannot be advertised in Google, but I would find the right advertising structure and put most of that money into the marketing. So the two big chunks of that $10,000 would be in educating myself and the skills that I couldn't hustle or organize, and the remaining money would be in marketing. There'd be bits in between. Now, I wouldn't advise people to do or organize to have partners. I would say that's a mistake a lot of people make, and ought they give equity because they need that skill. There's lots of things that you can do. Just talking to people and sharing the dream and telling them, what you're trying to achieve. A lot of people will do you a favor. A lot of people will help you out. A lot of people will put you in the right direction. There's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, for example, who has an agency, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to achieve. I've got this much budget and then I'm done. So you would tell them the story and just say, if you do this for me for free, then when I'm successful, I will become your client. Or for a period of time, not only will I become your client, but whatever your fee is, I'll give you that plus 10%. So you can charge me 100% your normal fee plus 10%. So I have organized entire businesses through that structure. Let me give you an example. There was myself and someone else were interested in doing what they call a roll-up of businesses. So GPs, general practitioners, my concept was to get 10 or 15 GP surgeries, put them under one umbrella, and with the money that we would save by, organizing everybody under one umbrella, it would increase profits. But in order to do that in that particular niche, I felt I needed a board of people who had credibility. So I reached out on LinkedIn to a lawyer who was an expert on mergers and acquisitions. And the deal I made with him was that if the deal is consummated, if it's a real deal, you can get paid. And if it doesn't, you don't get paid. I did that with every member of the board. I found somebody in that industry who was a retired chairman and told him that if he was happy and prepared to come on the board, then when everything worked out, he would get 2.5% of the profits. So I organized a board of people that never cost me anything and agreed to give them anything from 2.5%, and the most I gave was 5%. And I think the total that I gave away for the deal, for the credibility and the network and everything like that, was about, it was under 15%. I can't remember the exact number. But the point was, every person on that board contributed their time, their energy, their skills, their network for free. And I had a PowerPoint. What I did was I felt everybody out, told them the concept, organized a virtual meeting. This was during COVID. Organized a virtual meeting, got everybody on board, and gave them, I think it wasn't a big slide deck. It was like 20 slides. Told them the basic concept, were they on board or not? And at the end of that presentation, every single person was on board for that roll-up. And that became a very interesting project. But to get back to this, how do we turn $10,000 into $1 million? It's a combination of using your initiative and being brave enough to reach out to people that you don't know. I'd keep a portion of it, probably half of it, for the mechanics that I can't get away from. Some people will give you hours of time, but they won't give you $10. So you do need some money to make stuff happen. But so I'd keep a lot of that money for advertising and to make stuff happen. And the other portion, say $5,000, would be in educating myself and the things that I need. It might be negotiation skills. It might be how to build a website. It might be how something works. It might be a Shopify course, or it might be a general marketing course. Whatever that skill that you lack and you know that you need and you can't get it, then you're going to have to buy that. So I would be in two big chunks. One chunk would be getting the skills that you need and allowing that you need to pay for that. And the other would be in marketing. And if you have some skills, then you would have 80% marketing, but you need money to market. But there's a lot you can do just by reaching out to people, and I've demonstrated and helped that. I have students who I help right now with no money out their pocket to buy deals, buy businesses. And it's amazing what you can do when you've got the right attitude and you've got a bit of guidance there. Sometimes you've got to pay for that guidance, and sometimes you can get it. So that's how I'd get to $1 million before the end of the year. I'd invest in myself and marketing and constantly tweak that and have a go at it like that. I think that's hard to fail if you follow that formula. So Alex, great question. I hope that helps. If you've got more questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Anyone. That's what I enjoy, answering questions. Thank you, guys.